Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another segment of Hollywood Memories. I'm Dan Roberts, publisher of The Vegas Voice, and I have the great pleasure of hosting this segment with my favorite columnist and the other woman in my life, and that is Miss Beverly Washburn.
Thank you, Dan. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
Beverly, we're going to go way, way back to a program, a TV show that I'm sure most people never heard of, because I didn't until I looked it up. And that was going way back to April of 1956, and it was called Telephone Time. You remember that at all? Just the actual series and stuff, or the plot behind Telephone Time?
Yeah, I do. It was an episodic series, so every week it was a completely different story. It wasn't, like a series with the same cast all the time.
And the series ran for 3 years, from 56 to 1958. They did 81 episodes. And you had the pleasure of being in the second episode of this Telephone Time, which unfortunately, really, most people never heard of.
Right. I don't know. It wasn't very popular for some reason. I don't know.
And let us explain, or you can explain, you did a segment called Man with a Beard. Before we go into the whole thing, do you remember what that storyline was about?
Yeah, it was about this family that the father decides to grow a beard, and the townspeople are up in arms and get upset.
In the 1800s in Massachusetts. Yeah. And, it revolved around the storytelling and the first host of it, and that was John Nesbitt.
Right.
You recall him at all? You have any memories of him?
He was not actually on the set when I worked. He was the host and the creator of everything, so I didn't get the pleasure of getting to meet him.
You never met him at all. But he was the one who wrote, at least for the first year, all these stories.
Correct.
And he was a real deal because he was nominated for an Emmy way back in 1957 for his writing.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the interesting part, because how you got the part, I find amazing, only because in all the years that I've been with you, you've always liked this person, you like that one, that person's not bad, this was good. But you had a problem with the producer, and his name was Jerry Stagg.
Right.
Talk a little bit why you didn't like this guy.
Well, no, that's not true. It's not that I didn't like him. I thought that he didn't like me. And so he scared me. Because back then, typically I would go on all these auditions. And of course, I didn't get every role that I went out for. But typically, I was known as the little girl who could cry on cue. Mm-hmm. So whenever there was a role with somebody, a child to cry, almost every time I was fortunate that they would cast me. And so this role called for a lot of crying.
Yep.
So my agent thought that I was a shoo-in and that I would definitely get the role. So I went there to read for the role.
And that was reading with Jerry Stagg.
That was with Jerry Stagg.
Go ahead.
He was the producer.
Producer, yeah.
And I did the scene, and he said, no, not good enough. Do it again. And it sort of scared me because he was kind of gruff. And so I did it again. He goes, no, that's not good. No, you have to cry harder. And so I tried again, and I did it about 4 times, and each time he goes, no, not right, not good. And I was petrified of him because he was this big man, and I wasn't used to being yelled at like that. So I just assumed that, he didn't like me. And so I remember getting on the bus back then with my mother to go home, and I didn't want to disappoint my mother because she said, how did it go? And I just said, okay. And the whole time, I literally was praying, please don't let me get this part. I don't want this part. But then I thought, well, I know I won't get it anyway because he doesn't like me. So I got home, and the phone rang, and my mother was in the next room, and I hear her going, that's wonderful. And she turned to me, and she said, you got the part. And I was petrified because I thought he didn't like me. And I thought, but why did I get the part? He said I wasn't good enough.
And you were afraid of the guy.
I was very afraid of him because no matter what I did, he'd go, no, not good enough. Do it again. No, you need to cry harder.
And, something that you just mentioned, when you used to audition for the parts, whatever that is, was your mom in the room with you? Or
No.
She never came in?
She would go with me, obviously, to take me there. But no, they never let the mothers go into the room. You'd go. Typically, there would be maybe 10 or 20 other girls there in the lobby waiting to go in and read.
Right.
And one by one, we would go in and read, but we'd always go in alone. The parents or whoever it was, your guardian was not allowed in.
And thinking back to when he was yelling at you, saying, not good enough, not good enough, did it ever occur to you just to walk out, or you just said, You just put up with it.
No, he just scared me. And I didn't tell my mother because I didn't want to upset her, and I didn't want to tell her that I didn't want the part anyway, because I thought that, she was so proud of me and so supportive. And so I just said it was okay.
And lo and behold, you get it.
Part. Yeah.
And you got to work with the producer. I'm sorry, the director, Roy
Collino.
Well, I'm sorry. How was he?
He was wonderful. He was actually married to Barbara Billingsley,
Right.
who we all know was June Cleaver many years later on Leave It to Beaver. And I have a feeling that maybe he put in a good word for me because I had done a series with Barbara Billingsley. So he knew of my work and he knew me. So I was shocked when I got the part. But the director doesn't have the final say. It's basically up to the writer, producer,
Right.
director, all together. And so the fact that Jerry Stagg appeared to not like me, I was shocked that I got the part, and I was scared.
And you have this one very big scene in the show, which is really incredible. And if I would urge everybody, if you care about Beverly, you look at her career, it was really something. I mean, talk a little bit about that one scene. That was the scene. Go ahead.
Okay, well, there's this one scene where I come in because I've been bullied, and the townsfolk children attack me, and they bully me, and they push me down in manure, and they cut my hair off on one side and cover me in all this filth and everything. So I come in, and I'm screaming. Well, in the role, on one side, I was supposed to have my hair cut off, so they had to figure out how to do that because they couldn't actually cut my hair. So I was sent into the makeup and hairdressing room, and they were looking around, and up on the shelf, there was this mannequin that had wigs and, falls and hair pieces and toupees and all that. And up on the shelf was Van Heflin's toupee. So the hairdresser said, bring that one down. It happened to be the same color as my hair.
Yeah.
So what they did was they parted my hair and braided it, and then they pinned it down on one side so it was flat, and then they pinned Van Heflin's toupee.
I guess they didn't tell them about it, though.
I always wondered if Van Heflin ever knew that a child wore his toupee. But anyway, that's how they got that effect.
And I know that, as you mentioned, in the scene, you're supposed to be covered with manure. Wasn't really manure, was it?
No, they didn't go that
What
far.
was it?
It was just some kind of makeup stuff that they used that, would photograph like that because it was done in black and white. So they just made some kind of a compound to put and smear it on my face and everything.
And if I recall, before the scene started, you were required to do something by the director.
Well, Roy Collino, who was a wonderful director and wonderful man, he called me over and he said, okay, I'm going to give you a jump rope, and I want you to stand over there, and I want you to jump rope until you get tired, till you get out of breath. And when you come in, I want you to scream like you have never screamed before and cry
And carry on.
never cried before, and realize what these children have done to you. So he said, when you're, jumping rope and you get out of breath, look over at me and nod so I know when to roll the camera. And then I came in and did the scene.
I mean, it really was. I mean, you're a little girl, and it was a powerful scene only because you were screaming, you were carrying on, you were crying, you were doing everything. And here's the thing that I got a kick out of more than anything else. After the scene was over, they said, cut, you were done. What did the producer, Jerry Stagg, do?
Well, I looked over, and here's this big, gruff man with tears rolling down his eyes. And he had his arms outstretched like that to me. And I went up to him, and he picked me up, and he swung me around and around and around. And the crew applauded. It was the first time I'd ever been applauded doing a scene. And it was then that he called my mother over, and he said, I have had a script for several years that's been shelved because I wanted to do it. It's a show called The Key, and it's based on a true story of Laura Bridgman, who later became Helen Keller's teacher. And he said, I never thought I could find anybody to do it, and now I know I have.
I mean, it must have been a tremendous feeling for a little girl.
I was honored. Yeah.
Oh, you were honored. You remember it all these years. And when he picked you up and he twirled you around and he just said how great you were. Because again, you were fantastic in the scene. Did you ever say, F you, I knew I could do it? Did you, like, is that ever occurred to you to say, I told you I can do it, don't ever question me again?
You're so funny.
Yeah.
No, I was just thrilled because the whole time I thought he didn't like me because in the reading, he just kept telling me to do it over and over. But Roy Colino got it right. You know, he had me jump rope so I'd be out of breath. And then he told me to scream like violently and everything. And so when I looked over and Jerry Stagg had tears rolling down his eyes and hugged me, we became friends. And then it was the key that I did a couple weeks later, which we're going to do another segment.
We'll do another segment on that.
Yeah.
It must have been tremendously, must have just felt great knowing that this gratifying that this guy who gave you a hard time had tears in his eyes. I mean, you made men cry before. I don't want to even go into that, but it must have been extreme, something that you remember all your life.
I never forgot that, and we became wonderful friends, and he gifted me with a beautiful gold bracelet with a heart with a key on it after I filmed the key. And I was devastated when he passed away because he became like a really good friend. I was just a little girl, but he always stayed in touch with me. And
you know, and one of the things that I find also remarkable in this remarkable TV show is that when the credits ran at the end, they listed all the players. They listed your father was Walter Coy, who we never heard from again, and Madge Meredith as the mother. But as you see at the end, you got your sole feature there featuring Beverly Washburn, your sole credit like that. And did you have anything to do?
Oh, no, I had nothing to do with that. I was shocked. My whole family, when it came on, we didn't know that it was going to be like that. I just thought I would be somewhere down the list of the cast.
But I mean,
so that was very
nice. Get your whole sole credit like that.
I know. I was very touched by that and very grateful.
So out of all the roles you've done, that was really one of the most challenging, I guess. Would you say that?
Probably, yeah. And kind of comical looking back, realizing that I was wearing that Heflin's toupee.
Yeah, his toupee, and you're supposed to be covered in manure, which is a whole different story there. So, and that's just one of the remarkable things about Beverly, and we're going to have a ton more because I keep on finding him, and I keep on asking you about it, and it's just fantastic. So I thank you for putting up with me. We got a whole bunch more coming down the road, and this is Dan Roberts with Miss Beverly Washburn saying, we'll see you again next time.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Dan.